So this is the gross nitty-gritty of life. This is bone broth. These are old bones from chicken and ribs and things like that, and vegetable pieces, and we cooked them down all day yesterday and made delicious broth. And then today Mike is blending these up and making a bone smoothie.
There's our broth.
Oh, there's the broth. That's delicious broth. That we're gonna eat, and then we're gonna freeze a bunch of that. And then, so this bone broth smoothie is really gross. Let's see if we can look inside of it.
I've had to put water in there because there's not enough liquid to blend it.
Yeah, so we're not gonna drink that. Tell them what you're gonna do with that.
Okay.
Here, wait, let me get over here so there's light.
Okay. So I'm putting it in the blender with water, all the stuff that, like Finn was saying, we cooked yesterday, because it's real big and I want it to be really small.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do with it?
Well, I want it to be really small because I want really little creatures called soldier flies to be able to eat it.
Soldier flies.
Soldier flies. I want to attract them with...
You want to make maggots.
Yeah,
out of
particular
that.
Types of maggots that are...
And what are you gonna do with your maggots, Mike?
Well, then after I get a bunch of those to convert this material into soldier flies, then I'm gonna feed the soldier flies to our chickens, and then our chickens are gonna make eggs out of this material, and we're gonna have really vibrant, nutritious, healthy eggs from live food instead of the pelletized
Awesome.
stuff that we normally
And are we gonna be selling these eggs, or are we keeping all these eggs?
No, we're gonna be ingesting these eggs.
These are our eggs to keep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, now here's the finished broth. And we're gonna pour it in here. And then what are you gonna do with it from here? You're gonna put it like in a bucket or something?
Well, it's because it's so liquidy, it's in danger of becoming sort of anaerobic, so I'm gonna have to mix it with like some sawdust and stuff, or just some material that can kind of add air. I haven't done this enough to say what's gonna actually work, but I'm going to attempt at first to just stick it in buckets with various amounts of other material to see which the soldier flies like.
And you're gonna feed it to the chicken.
Well, our worm bin actually has some soldier flies in it, so I'm gonna take those out and put it into this, and it'll attract more flies because they're babies.
Because they're having a party.
They're already in it.
So they're calling their friends.
So I'm gonna see how they react just by putting them straight in there, and then,
Okay.
yeah, they'll call all their friends, and it'll be a big party, like.
Maggot party.
Yes, maggot party. My favorite.
Okay, we're having a maggot party. What is this?
So I just discovered an issue. I guess we had that big rainstorm yesterday, and I had a lid on here, but it overwhelmed this bin. This is our worm bin. So we have a lot of worms in here, and they do like it moist, but this is actually over moist. And so I'm gonna throw some stuff in here, I guess, to try to, you know, some dry leaves and things like that to try to give them some dry stuff to work with. But in any case, this is where I was going to get my soldier flies, and I think that soldier flies tolerate even less moisture, maybe, because the ones that are in here, which I don't know if you can see, but that's what a soldier fly looks like.
Let's see. I don't know if the camera can pick up on it.
But, well, he is moving a little bit.
What are we doing?
What am I doing right now?
Yeah.
Well, so a couple of weeks ago, I came over here with the flail mower and mowed over some of these leaves so that they broke up a little more. And so what I'm doing now is just gathering. They're fairly dry, and I think this will be good for the worms that are overwhelmed by moisture. It'll give them something to come get out of the moisture until it dries up a little bit more. So evidently there's like all kinds of essential minerals and nutrients and things like that in every leaf, and so when they dry and break down, then you have, you know, just by itself it's amazing, but then when you go through the whole body of a worm and everything else,
I don't know.
So it's just leaf duff, you know, almost like leaf mold. If we left it a little longer, it'd become leaf mold. So, you know, I came over here because I wanted to get the soldier flies out, and I ended up in this whole other side project, but you got to do it when it's time to do it.
You're just going to stir that with your hand?
Well, yeah, I'm just looking for a few soldier flies, which I think is maybe futile, but there were a lot in here 2 days ago, and they've kind of spread out, and they're probably looking for food because there's like a lot of competition with these worms, and I have a lot of worms in here, so my guess is the few soldier flies that were in here did not have a lot of time before the worms got into it. But you can see just how wet that is. That's not good. The worms are going to drown in that. So, but that's, you know, that's the worm population in here, which is really good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they're beautiful.
But,
that's a lot of worms.
Yeah.
Is that like a...
You see it?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, anyway, it's like a little golden, like almost like a punch and ball sack.
I would not know that was a worm egg.
So
evidently,
I think
that was a seed.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess
it kind of is.
Eggs or seeds, yeah.
There's a bunch of them in here, which means they're happy. I imagine they're not making a lot of eggs right now because they're probably just trying to not drown. But in general, I've heard that there's like 5 or 6 little worms in there. In each one of those little eggs, and when I was looking in here the other day, there was just loads. Wait,
so each egg has 5 or 6 worms?
Well,
that's a lot.
I mean, I think it. Well, I don't know if 5 or 6 is the right number, but it's a multiple amount of worms.
Okay.
And I was digging around in here the other day, and there was a bunch of them, and that's, I believe that's an indication of well-being. Like they can grow up to a mature state. So enough to anyway, I'm not even going to bother trying to get the soldier flies out of that because it's just not going to happen. There's too much gross moisture going on for me to find them. So you're not going to hunt soldier flies out of this? No, so we're going to just kind of go with what happens naturally, which is we're going to take the material that we got from the kitchen, which I don't think we ever showed anybody, but it ends up looking like this. Which is really... It just looks like potato soup. Yes, exactly. Like potato or refried beans or something like that. And again, like I said, the problem with that is that it's potentially going to be... Well, it is going to go anaerobic really quick, you know. There's no air in it. So, the way we're going to deal with that... Courage is going to inspect the compost and make sure we're not throwing anything that's awesome away. Alright, buddy. Oh, there's something awesome. So I'm adding like dry and airy material, so leaves and old compost from our kitchen. Yes. Into these buckets, and I'm hoping that it's going to work well enough to keep this liquid, very dense material from going too anaerobic. Now, soldier flies cannot digest cellulose, as far as I understand, which is like leaf matter and things like that. But they can digest meats, dairy, things like oil, bread, and potatoes and things like that. They really like. So you happen to run into a big mass of that, that's a good thing to have. But so that's what it looks like right now. And so what I've done is, like I said, mix a bunch of air and stuff in there, and so now everything's kind of coated in that stuff. Yeah. That's really dense that we made in the kitchen, and so. So this is compost, leaves, some soldier flies from your worm bed, and that slop that you made from the bone broth. Right. Gotcha. Soldier flies are really interesting because they don't have mouth parts or any digestive parts. Like in the fly state, their only goal is to reproduce. So anything that they think will deem a good place for their young to grow up and to have enough food to eat is where they lay their eggs. And so they're only a sexual kind of reproductive being at that stage, and so they are looking for this kind of stuff all over. And so when they find it, they'll lay their eggs, and I think it's probably like probably less than a week, I would imagine, in this kind of weather. It's nice and warm. They have to go fast, because if they don't, then something else will, like these other flies. So I don't remember the numbers, but I think within a week we should have a bunch of soldier flies in here.
Cool. Okay.
I hope so. That's the goal.
If people are watching.
There's a soldier fly. I just saw it, and you can tell it by the way that it flies. It's a bigger fly. A lot of people think it's a wasp, but I just saw it come by, and it flies like this, and it often, when it gets in your face, it's like that. And so a lot of people, think it's a big deal, but they can't sting you or bite you or anything, because they don't have anything to do that with, and so they're actually a pretty cool
look
fly.
like a little bee?
Well, they look like a wasp, because instead of like a fly, which I think often has its wings out like this, its wings fold all the way to the back. And so when it's like hanging out on the windowsill or something like that, I think a lot of people think of it as a little wasp or something like that. It's got a big head and kind of a nice long sleek black body, and so if you don't know the difference, you might easily think of it as a wasp. And I think it's actually intended to look like something more menacing, because it's so incompetent in regards to defending itself or doing anything about an attack. Like, it can only reproduce. So
It's been about a week or two?
it's been a week.
A week. Okay.
Yeah.
What happened with your experiment?
Well, it essentially is a failure, because the soldier flies never came. We just got regular flies, and
My battery's dying. Pause.
there was a lot of rain this week, and we ended up only getting really regular flies to lay their eggs in that bucket, and so it got gross pretty quickly and smelled really bad and did a lot of things I didn't want it to do. And so my fear of there not being enough air is probably true. There still wasn't enough air. Ideally, it's like a wrung out sponge. Your compost is supposed to be kind of like the feeling of a wrung out sponge, so kind of moist to the touch, but nothing oozy like when you squeeze it or anything like that.
And would you do this experiment again?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've learned a few things, or I think I have, and so, right, I'm gonna go. I know where I think some soldier flies are, and so I'm probably just gonna get at those and start a colony, like I said, and start feeding them slow. Yeah, so I mean, there's options if we explore those to see what might happen. But
Do you have a catchphrase or something you wanna?
a catchphrase.
I don't know. Something important to say.
Keep growing.
Keep growing. All right. Cool. Thanks.